Okay. You ready for some more questions?
Yeah.
All right. So again,
These are big questions.
these are big
Like,
questions.
they're deep questions more than you're making them seem. Yeah.
There's a good chance that you did not see the first question, and so maybe go look at another video, or maybe we can link it somewhere around here once we learn how to do those
Yeah.
things. I've scoured the internet,
Okay.
and I've got some questions for you. So I want to share with you another question and see what
Raw answer is?
what your answer is. Yes.
Okay.
Do you think that a woman should work outside of the home while raising children?
Preferably not.
Okay. Can you elaborate as to why?
Yeah. I think,
So preferably not.
yeah.
So you're not making a hard line. You wouldn't say
Uncalled for,
you
no.
wouldn't say that like that is absolutely
Depends on the situation.
okay.
So if the male is not pulling in enough income for the type of lifestyle you both are choosing to live at the moment when you have a child, then maybe y'all need to downsize on the way you are living, or you guys need to make arrangements where it's probably a part-time job or
Okay.
not completely full-time job. I think the attention of a mom and the nurturing of a mother in a child is super important for how that child really is going to develop in his different milestones in teenage years and adulthood. I think the parenting of a mother is very important, just like the parenting of a father is too. But there's different roles that are needing to be played here. And so the dad is the male is usually the big provider and the main provider.
Okay.
Is how I tend to see it. And the mom is there to help in any way and to help make the family better.
Okay.
And so one of those things by making the family better is by raising good and healthy children. And so the mother needs to be home primarily rather than working.
Okay.
Is what I think.
Would you say that that is equally as important at all ages of the child's growth and development? Or would you say that there are certain stages
Primarily,
where mothers...
children. Like once they get into high school,
Yeah.
that's a little different. I mean, you can kind of start pulling away while you're nurturing their independence, because that's when they should be hitting that stage of being independent.
Yeah.
But if you can't nurture that correctly when they're hitting the teenage years, the middle school years, into high school, if you didn't nurture that correctly, then you're going to have a little bit more work to do while they're in high school. So it just kind of depends on how you nurture their development and their maturity,
Okay.
on what type of a role or how heavy of a role you can be playing as a mother.
What if a woman is a very high earner? Does that make any difference? Let's say that she's some sort of a doctor, lawyer, engineer, the rare
Right.
female engineer. Would you say that she should be willing to leave her career in order to steward her
If she
children?
set herself up to pull away from her career when she starts to have children,
Okay.
that's a little different. I
Okay.
think one of the advice that I've heard before and recently is that you're supposed to set yourself up in order to have the time to mother children. So if you have
Okay.
a career, you kind of, it's like a savings account. You kind of put your money and
Like retirement?
yep, you kind of make a savings plan for raising of your children so that you're able to pull away from your career, invest in your child, and then once they get to a certain age, and
Maybe
they're-
you can go back in
and
if
you
that's
can
something that you're
start
really wanting
pulling-
to.
Yeah, it's like a balance. So you kind of focus on your children, and then you kind of like start pulling away as much as you can, depending on how mature they get and how quickly.
Do you think that many women would
The main
go
thing
ahead.
that I'm trying to say
Yeah.
is that children need a certain amount of attention in different stages of their life.
Okay.
And so if you can balance that with working, then do both. I don't think that you're limited, but it's very hard to do that because children are very needy,
Yeah.
and they require a lot of attention. But if you don't want to have a whiny kid, you don't want to have a kid that kind of just isolates themselves because they don't have a good relationship with you, because of the trust or the investment that you did in them. Like,
Okay.
like as teenagers, they automatically want to have their independence. But if you don't nurture that, then eventually you're not going to have a teenager with a relationship because you didn't cultivate, hey, I'm still here, I'm still going to be involved. I'm not going to allow you to just isolate. I'm still your mom and I'm still your parent. There's still some parenting that you need through this stage.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of parents are giving their children the independence, and then they come to high school and they're like, hey, where's my kid?
Yeah.
They don't understand what happened, and it was because I don't believe that they really nurtured the independent stage. They don't know how to be independent yet.
Okay.
And so I feel like mothers need to be there.
But the independent stage happens more around puberty typically.
Right.
Okay.
So, like middle school,
So you're
preteen.
saying that mothering is quite important even up to 7th, 8th, 9th grade?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So when is a woman supposed to, pull back out of the home and back into the marketplace should she want to? When based on your understanding of things, do you think
Well,
that's
I mean, I think, like I said, you kind of have your ducks in a row in order for you to do that. So it's like financially, I guess, like maturely, how mature your kid is.
Okay.
Like how, like right now, one of our kids, he's only like a child, but we treat him almost like he's a preteen sometimes.
Yeah,
because
yeah, for sure.
Because he's able to carry conversations, he's able to think through things, he's able to communicate.
So sure, he's
And so
high
it's
IQ
like,
kid, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like if I were to leave him alone right now with the other two kids, people would think I was crazy. But I know that my kid would be able to handle that. Would I do that? No,
Well,
because
you couldn't in today's society. If anything were to happen, then we would be arrested for child endangerment or negligence or one
just because
or
of
some
his
other
actual
fantastic.
age.
Yeah.
So it,
But he shows himself to be quite competent. But I guess that's beside the point.
right.
The point is.
When should a mom go back to work?
Yeah.
It just kind of depends on their family setup,
Yeah.
is what I think. As long as their children are healthy and they're on the right track to be a healthy adult,
Yeah.
then you kind of tailor it to
Okay. Do you
your
see?
family.
This is an add-on question.
Okay.
Do you see a difference in your friends and family and the maybe not even just friends and family, but the women that are our age, the ones that have their children in daycare? Do you see a difference in their children versus the women that do not have them in daycare and stay home with them?
Yeah, a big difference. I have friends in both fields, ones that are stay at home
And ones that have- yeah.
have jobs outside of homes,
Mm-hmm.
and very different.
Do you think that that's because of the daycare, or do you think that that's because, I would think, I may be wrong, but I would think that the majority of women that aren't that real, like upper 1% of highly ambitious, go-getter, highly educated type of driver personality women,
Yeah.
that's rather rare, believe it or not. The vast majority of women that aren't that would be more inclined to, I would think, want to stay home and nurture their children or be with their children, whatever you want to call it, but they can't because of other circumstances. Maybe it all revolves around finances and time,
Right.
but there's reasons why people don't have finances and time. Maybe the education's not good, or the job's not good, or the way that they're living and spending money maybe is above their means, or maybe there's not a husband, a male in the household, so it's a single, or maybe there's not a mother for that matter.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
so there's these. Do you think that it's those other? And maybe you don't have the data on this. I don't know. I'm just asking your opinion, just from observation, though.
Yeah.
Really, I'm not asking you to necessarily be a sociologist.
Yeah.
But do you think that it's because the kids are in daycare that they've got problems?
Actually, I think
You
it's
don't
the
think it's the
lack of
daycare?
the attention of the mother. When you have a
But don't they
working mom,
give plenty of attention to them once they get home?
it's like going to a public classroom. It's like you have a teacher for 20 students, but even some of the students don't get the specific attention that
Well,
they
wait a minute.
require
So
as a
so then it is
personality.
so you're saying, unless I mistook, then you're saying that it is the nursery, the children being in the nursery, that causes the lack in the child, whatever that may be, whether it be in discipline or cognitive ability or.
Yeah. It is a big effect.
So
on
did you
them.
understand my question earlier? Do you think that, okay, I guess you just answered my question, because it was kind of just to go back to it. I may not have stated it clearly. It was kind of like, okay, we have a problematic child. That child has some kind of problems in the home of some sort that leads his parents to both need to go or want to go out and work, and they send this child to daycare, right? Is that child developmentally inhibited in whatever way, whether that be personality or
it doesn't even
you
just
know?
have to be a daycare. It can be when the parents are non-existent. It could be at a grandparent's house. It can be at a
Well, wait a
aunt's
minute. Let me
house.
back up the question though, because I don't. Maybe I'm not saying it right. Is the catalyst, the thing that sparks off the problem in the child? Is it that they're going to daycare, or is daycare just another one of the things in their life that are causing them problems?
No, I think
Like it's
the
problems
going.
at home.
I think it's the separating.
You think that
from
it is the going,
parents.
like it is the
it
away
is
from the
Away
parents?
from the parents.
That's the
Yes,
big
because
thing.
I don't believe that daycares or babysitters or nannies or anything like that, they will have the permission, I guess, a little bit to discipline or correct the kid.
Okay.
Right? But that's not their job. That's the job of a parent. That's parenting, is
Okay.
guiding them and disciplining them and nurturing and guiding them into the correct path.
Got
right?
it.
And so putting them in somebody else's hands for majority of the day and for many days of the week,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of time out of their life for that nurturing to actually happen and the guidance to actually happen and the correction, the right and rightful correction
yeah.
to happen, right?
Like that constant pressure.
Yeah. So
It's like
hey,
that steers the big boat. The
we
constant.
don't jump on couches, but you can
Easy.
jump all over the daycare all day long if you want.
Okay.
So there's no.
Now there's boundaries at the daycare though, right? You can't kick, you can't bite, you can't
Of course
scratch,
there
you
is,
can't pee in the
but-
corner or something. I don't know what just
Have
you got to
ever
behave.
Been in a daycare?
You got to behave.
I'm like, have you ever been in a
relatively behave? I would assume. I haven't been in
daycare?
a
I mean,
daycare in a
you
very
do,
long time.
but again, you're.
But it's not that constant, directed.
It's not even the relational
Relationship. Or?
it's not even the relational development.
Okay.
Like, they see her every day, all day, but like, there's no real connection for the child, to me, in my perspective, to actually trust somebody and what they're saying and how they're correcting them or how they're taking care of them. If that makes sense. You're just going because that's where your parents told you to go and you kind of have to deal with it. But I feel like emotionally there's no relationship to develop and say, this is an authority figure and I'm going to listen to this person, right?
And I don't know if this relates perfectly, but it just reminds me of something that I heard from Jordan Peterson here not too long ago. I think I mentioned it to you, and it talks about how children don't mind, like, say they don't have a mother or they don't have a father, but they have an uncle or they have a grandpa or something like that. Like, they don't mind who the caretaker is, but they really, really abhor for apparently he said multiple reasons. He listed out all these different reasons.
Yeah.
They abhor having different caretakers.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I remember going to preschool, and I remember that was something that, now that I look back, even as I'm thinking about it now, I really disdained having to go to daycare. It felt like an abandonment almost. And I mean, I'm not trying to put that stress on my mother for sure. My mom, my mom was trying to get by.
But this just comes down to the fact that children have relational and emotional needs that they don't really realize that it's very effective even at a young age, even at a toddler or even a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
There's such need for the attention and the parenting and the nurturing of a mother.
You know, that probably is right, because I mean, if you think about how we probably grew up through almost all of human history, I always like to go back to this cave, or this group of teepees that are out on the plains, this tribe of people,
Yeah.
and it's like you constantly were around as a small child. Like you never were handed off to another tribe for half of the day.
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe you were handed off to auntie or to your niece or whatever. I'm sure that happened. I mean, that's almost guaranteed, right? But it was all in the context of your very close family that had all the same expectations and rules and kind of knew the boundaries and the social.
Right.
Y'all had a,
So
knew where
they kept you in the structure.
Yes, and you had that constant, defined kind of path that you were being pushed towards, right? Which is those societal norms and the the things that make you successful in this group or that as a person. So okay, well, I think that answers my question on that. Yes.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to say there?
I guess there's just I can't stress it enough. Like, it's a big difference whenever there's moms that are working outside of the home, the effect that it really has on kids. And you don't end up realizing that until they start being expressive with it, with their actions.
And by that time, you've kind of
really
lost
hard.
the battle already.
It's really hard to unwind. And the further along it gets, untreated, then you're gonna kind of lose that battle.
Yeah.
And I think, and it makes me sound like I'm not for moms to work outside of the home, but it's just like, just be prepared. Just set yourself up for success and set your kid up for success. And if working outside of the home is a big desire of yours, do it when it's probably a better time.
Would you recommend, in your personal perspective?
Because I can say in my personal experience, my mom didn't end up working like outside of the home, because she was always stay-at-home mom, housewife. But she didn't end up working outside the home till I was in high school.
Okay.
Driving, kind of taking care of myself throughout the day. But she was home when I was out of school.
Do you think, and I think I might have already answered this, but do you think that taking as much money as you can muster and giving that to a family member to watch those children during the day and paying them, do you think that would be preferable? Because they may stay sitting there at home, watching TV, maybe playing on the small playground out back or something like that. But they don't have a whole lot of kid interaction, or send them off to daycare. If you have to work at home, think?
I would totally send them with a family member.
And
with
why?
Like a grandma,
and why?
With like a trusted aunt.
Yes.
Because your family member is gonna know, with clear communication, they're gonna honor that, because first of all, the love that they have for the child.
Yeah.
Just automatically, because they're a family member.
Family has.
Right.
Yep.
And then you're able to be very upfront with them on your expectations and not have to feel like someone's going to throw in your face, well, if you want all of these things to happen, then maybe you should stay home type of throw it in your face.
Okay.
So they're not going to do that. If they're going to say, hey, you really need to go work. Okay, I'll step in for you. and then in return you're paying them. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like a mutual family business.
But you don't think that the child would not get that all that experience with toys and friends and other adults and learn how to
no.
relate with other adults and
No.
in a community that's not being constantly managed by an adult.
No, I think that right there can always be pretty much it.
That's easily taught into a
That's
person.
usually taught into somebody. Yeah, and it doesn't matter at any age. But you do want to treat the kid at home, if they're not going to get a lot of social interaction,
Mm-hmm.
you do want to treat them still as if they were getting a lot of social interaction. So when they
What
do,
do you mean? In what regard?
So,
treat them. You said
with
treat them
good
as
manners,
if.
they need to have manners. Not just because they're with you and they're not around other people doesn't mean they
Understood.
don't have manners.
Oh,
So
understood.
you still treat the habits and the good things, the manners, the etiquette, the speech, and the communication as if they were being very social.
Yeah.
So even Jordan Peterson said that you even have to work out the antisocial behavior out of a child by the time they're 4.
Okay, like 4 or 5, I think he says.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's super important. I really want to make that clear that antisocial behavior are like the screaming,
Biting, kicking, scratching,
Yeah.
hitting, stealing.
right,
Those
The
are all
lying.
considered. Yes. Yeah.
right, like trying to be antisocial.
Well, I don't think that it's anti-social in that you're thinking, oh, we're being social, right?
no.
But it's things that fight against one's
Ability
to socialize
to be
in
social,
a
yeah.
positive way. Yeah,
Yeah.
to be social.
So think about all
yes.
those things that you just listed. Those in a child, you kind of see them as funny or like, whoa, how can you do that? And kind of like make light of it,
Okay.
Like when
yeah.
they tell like a little white lie, or they're like, no, I didn't do it, but they have like chocolate all over their face,
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of one of those things where
There's like a million TikTok videos like that.
right, but it's kind of like there's a bigger picture there. Like those are the things that you got to key into and nurture correctly to where they don't get bigger. Like the scale doesn't get bigger as they get older,
I think that Peterson said, I think it was like, if it was not 80, then it was 60% of which is still significant with what I'm about to say, of the people that they tracked from early childhood development that had antisocial behavior, that were not socialized out of that by, ages 6, 7, 8. They said at adulthood, they saw those same behaviors, or just expressed in adult versions of
Right.
it, in 60 or 80% of the people
Oh,
that
wow.
that was not socialized out of as children,
Oh, wow.
right?
Yeah.
They say 2-year-olds are the most violent population group,
Yeah. Well,
right, as far as age.
Yeah, I mean that's why they have like the bad slogan for a 2-year-old is like
Terrible
terrible
twos.
twos.
Yeah, the terrible
which
twos.
I abhor.
I don't feel like we ever had like terrible
but I
twos
don't
with our
even
kids.
like saying that because I
Yeah.
feel like it's a cop out for parents to actually nurture and
Oh,
deal with
yeah,
the
yeah.
issues that they really need to be paying attention to and keen into.
It's like you have a
And-
teenager that's like
and taming that.
drinking and smoking on the side a little bit, or like,
"Oh, it's
or like
just a
just locks the
phase,"
side.
and it's
Yeah,
like,
no,
no.
you're gonna end up with an alcoholic.
Yeah, because you're not taming it or correcting it lovingly.
Yeah.
To where you're putting them, you're still keeping them on the path of success.
I think that's where fathers come in though, and I would love to see a little bit more research on what it. We're still just kind of lost a little bit on what fathers' role are in those early childhood growth and development stages. We know the numbers.
A lot of identity and a lot of authority.
Yeah, but the thing is,
it's-
what's weird is we know these numbers are staggering, man.
Yeah.
If you take a father out of a house for those early years, there's like very specific things that happen to a child that you see the rest of their life, even if the father comes back into the life at 6 or 7 or 10 or what have you. But the thing is, we don't understand. It used to be in psychology, apparently, that they called them the tender years. I think it's like 1 to 5 is considered the tender years, and that's why a lot of men. Yes, well, that's why a lot of men, even today in our court system, are unable to get full custody of their children when they're that young, because the courts go on this kind of antiquated psychological method that states that, if I'm not misstating it, that children are basically, to put it in a synopsis, children need their mothers more than they need their fathers during those early years. And there's probably a case to be made for that.
Yeah.
But before, they used to think, like, what is the father's role with a 3-year-old? Yeah. We still seemingly, after reading all the stuff that I've read, doesn't seem like anybody exactly knows what the heck a father brings to a 3-year-old. But he brings something.
Yeah.
Because that a fatherless 3-year-old is, like I said, has these things that get in them, these nasty social bugs that get in them that are really difficult, if not impossible, to get out. And so I don't know exactly where I was going with that, but
I think it has a lot to do with the development of them and removing those antisocial behaviors in them.
That's probably what I was kind of like referring back to, is I wonder if it's that constant discipline, whereas a mother has got to be nurturing during those times. A father needs to be nurturing too. However, the way that a father nurtures is not by winking at the child with the chocolate on their face. A father may look and smile, but a father's also then going to instantly correct with relative lack of mercy compared to what a mother would do. And I don't think that we have the only right perspective on disciplining children. We are millennials. But
I'll still spank my kid.
Yes,
if necessary.
But it's under these very controlled circumstances.
Yeah.
I feel like I was swatted kind of probably too much or too often when I was young.
Ever swatted enough.
Okay, so what I didn't want to do, because children tend to follow what they've been modeled, is I didn't want to do that to my children, and
we know that out of our emotion, if we're angry, if we're upset, we don't lay a hand on a kid.
Yeah.
We go assess what happened, why it, we assess ourselves before we ever even come to that, okay, they really do need
It'll
to
usually
spank
be
him.
hours later
Yeah.
that we decide to spank, if we're going to spank.
And we'll let them know. But if we say it,
I'm going to get you later.
But if we say that we're going to give a spanking,
we follow through with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're very careful with those.
I actually have one
words.
that I owe one of them. Both of them. Oh my gosh, right now. Oh, I hate spanking them. Well, it's miserable.
Yeah.
I hate doing it. I really disdain doing it.
They gave their word.
Yeah.
We gave our order, and they disobeyed. So they kind of lied
and it was
disobeyed.
a reasonable. You say order. People are like, oh, they're ordering their kids. No, we gave them we gave them more time.
I wouldn't say order if that's going to be so touchy. Let's say direction. We gave them directions.
Yes.
And they didn't follow those.
Not a bit.
While they did say that they were going to, so they gave their word. So they lied to us.
Yep.
And then they disobeyed.
Yep.
So, yeah.
What do you do, man? What do you do?
You gotta correct.
Well, that's intentional disobedience right there. I mean, there has to be, if you're intentionally disobedient as an adult.
Yeah. That's really bad.
Bro, you'll end up with a felony.
Yeah.
Especially young. Both of the ones that are in trouble are boys.
Yeah.
I can't let them just.
And I think that's what mothers and fathers are supposed to do. Look at the situation right now and then what it would look like.
Play it out.
In the future. What will this look like 10 years later? If I don't nip it in the bud right now, what is it going to turn into?
Oh, you're hiding food that you're not supposed to have. Yeah. Oh, okay. What are you going to hide when you're a teenager?
Right.
What are you going to hide from your spouse when you're an adult?
Yeah.
If you have this hiding type of manipulative behavior. Which one?
The Dragon Book? What is the title of it?
Oh, gosh. It's a super famous book. I think it's like How to Keep a Dragon?
Maybe.
But anyways,
whatever the title is, that book, the principle in it is that you gotta address your problem or else it's just gonna get bigger and bigger and it's gonna overtake you.
Yeah.
And so that's basically what we try to do with children is if it's a bad habit or it's gonna potentially turn into a bad habit and not be a good thing for them.
Well, the thing that was interesting in that book was that it was the mother that was like,
oh, it's not there. The dragon's not there.
And the child's like,
and yes, it is.
The child's like, yeah, there's a dragon. The dragon's eating the stuff in the fridge. It's getting bigger. Oh, the dragon's filling up the house. Oh, now the house is on the back of the dragon. And at every step, every page, the mother's like, oh no, it's not that big of a deal. And she'd be like, sweeping off the dragon's back instead of like the front doorstep or whatever. Like
it's not that big
and
of a deal.
then like, if I remember right, like the father comes home and he's like, like, what did y'all do while I was away, right? And isn't that kind of how I think a lot of fathers feel when they come home and
the mother's over here complaining
or
being naive and with their head in the sand.
Yeah, I wouldn't say complaining, but maybe, but
I'm tired. They're too much.
Well, I would think, I guess I'm thinking that the story's saying something kind of like she let things get out of control to the point to where the father comes home and where the mother was supposed to be taking care of the house and the home.
Yeah.
She's, through her not wanting to deal with a problem and through her nurturing nature and not wanting to be aggressive, etc., she let this thing grow to the point to where finally when the father came home from work, he was like, oh my God, I've got a problem so big on my hands that I don't even know how to deal with it.
Right.
And I think that that's how a lot of fathers in their 30s, they're working their tail off at the law firm or at the factory or whatever. Then they come home, in their 40s and they wake up to a teenager that's depressed and cutting themselves, that's sassy or emo. And they look back and they're like,
doesn't even know how to communicate.
Doesn't know how to communicate
anything.
And he's looking and he's like, how did this happen?
Right.
And it's like, well, it was him and the mother for sure.
Right.
But in the example
of the book.
Yeah, of the book, it's kind of like the nurturing side, the feminine side of parenting is good up to a point. Then it needs that full stop pragmatic understanding of where the lines have to be drawn in order to keep the house from
but I think that also takes communication in a husband and wife is the expectations of the father and their kids and the expectations of a mother and putting those two together, and the mother is supposed to kind of be making that happen if she's going to be nurturing and caretaking of the child. Well, the dad is providing,
especially
and keeping
if the father's
alive,
doing the traditional role thing.
Yeah. So I think that's how the roles kind of like go together and play off of each other.
I do think that American fathers have abdicated their role a little bit, though, by working probably more than they ought in order to provide a dream that was never exactly asked of them.
Yeah.
I know I feel that stress on myself sometimes. I wasn't exactly asked to provide certain things, but I feel that it's my responsibility to, make sure that if that card gets swiped, that it's in, that it works.
Yeah.
And that's caused me to work at times probably more than I wish that I would have. But anyways, I think that answers my question. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.